Hey everybody, I'm Jesse,
And I'm Adi.
and we're doing what I would call a road to the Expendables 4. We had not seen any of the Expendables before, so we decided to give
Binge
them a
watch them.
gander and see what's up with them, right? So, in this particular video, we're going to be talking about part one, obviously. So, uh, just our general thoughts about the entire movie as a whole, and then we're going to be doing this for each film, and on the third one we'll also just kind of rank them. We'll rank them individually, and then on the final episode we'll give them all a rank of how we think
Overall, for
they
the
all
series.
stack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this film, to begin with, the one thing that stood out to me the most and was bothering me the entire time was just how cheap the VFX are. In particular, the blood is the one big standout of the entire movie for me. It looks like just your basic stock blood. If you go to Google and you put stock blood footage splatter, and then you grab that and you just drop it into Adobe After Effects, and you get that splatter that every time, and just like the opacity turned up or down. Um, Now this is these all these gripes that I'm gonna have for the most part are gonna be like little jabs here and there, but despite knowing that their budget for a Hollywood blockbuster is quite low, um, so they had that going for them.
It's also their
But
first movie,
it is also the
so
first
they're
movie.
testing out the waters.
Yeah, but that was the first thing that stood out to me the entire time.
Yeah, I think for me it was the fire. There's a specific scene where Stallone is like looking at a reflection or something, and then you can see the like flames reflected on his glasses, and it literally just looked like a meme. Like they just put like two copy pasted like rectangle screenshots of the fire into like his glasses, and it didn't even follow the curve of the lens or anything. That one I was like, let's rewind and look at it again. And it was so bad. But again, it is their first movie, and this was also made in like the 2000s, so they didn't have a lot to work with.
Yeah, I mean, a thing to consider is just like the technology of the time, their budget, and it makes me wonder if this was just like a kind of like a test product to put it out there and be like, all right, let's see if this hits. Like, I don't know if like the studio didn't have a lot of faith in it and was like, let's see what we can do with it. But I feel like that's something they knew from the beginning because they're like, we have all these big budget A-listers who we're gonna have to pay, and then everybody else was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like low budget. The main villain in the film is someone who comes out in a lot of those like cheap sci-fi films, like on the realm of I think it's like Sharktopus or something like that, and there's another one that's like a King Kong ripoff or whatever, and that's like his filmography, and they put him in. This is like one of his bigger films. I'm like, clearly they were needing somebody on the lower end.
They spent
Um,
their money elsewhere.
yeah. Besides that, it's these little they're tiny things, but I think they were like drawing me out of the film. There was another one where it was like Stallone's gun. They gave it such a loud boom, and it almost sounded like it was automatic instead of being like there was no gap between each sound of the gun going off. It was like bam, 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 but it was a pistol. It's like unless you have a really darn good trigger finger, that just didn't make sense. And it was like pulling them out of the film. The sound effects sometimes were just not lining up, and um, the use case for it wasn't working either.
I didn't notice that because to me it all just sounds like guns and everything was going so fastly. But other than that, I think it was an okay movie for the time that they produced it. I wasn't expecting that much from it, and I feel like we got not much out of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing glimpses of some of these films when I was younger. My dad would watch them, and they never really caught my attention for that particular reason. I kind of always had in the back of my mind, like, this is just going to be like a bunch of guys hanging out, making a film because they're all friends. And I searched it up afterwards, and it was like, Stallone's idea was just to get a bunch of like 80s action stars together
Mm-hmm.
to make these films, which is the idea I had going in, and is what this movie delivered. This movie was just like okay for me. The other thing that was like really bothering me was like the cheap way of making action shots that was brought to light by the Bourne films, which is like constantly cutting over and over again in between punches, and making it super shaky so that it seems that the action is more exaggerated than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was just really, these things were just all really drawing me out of the film.
But yeah, going off of that, I think also the script and the lines that the characters were given were not the best that they could be. I
Mm-hmm.
think Sylvester Stallone wrote it all, if not most of it, and he tried to give himself like the cooler one-liners. I can't think of anything
They
right
all came
now.
off as bad.
Yeah, but they all came off as bad. I just got like cringe vibes out of it, and it didn't deliver what he was hoping it would. Um, we'll get to the second and the third film in another video, but I think those were a little bit better. But for this being the first one and it's supposed to be like the better impression of them all, I don't think they did good in that department either.
Yeah, I feel like it was just a proof of concept, just to see if they could get it out there, kind of test the waters, and see how people would react to it. Because I could go on and on about this film and how the VFX just flat out sucks, and was drawing me out of it. But if you stop to think about the target audience, you're gathering a bunch of '80s action stars. You got old wrestlers like uh, Stone Cold Steve Austin. You got Terry Crews, Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, who are all like from like the height of their careers was like in the '80s. So the people of that time weren't really used to seeing really
True.
good VFX. So to them, this probably looks great or just acceptable. Um,
You're spoiled with today's movies.
exactly. So as someone like I could attest, like my dad loved these films. So I'm sure their target audience was hit spot on because clearly we have a second, third, and now a fourth part coming out. They accomplished what they set out to do. So yeah, in that aspect, they did well.
Yeah. Are we going on to ratings?
Yeah. For me, I'd have to give this probably like a 5 out of 10. As like the VFX in general were just drawing me out of this film. The lines were okay. It didn't really seem well thought out. It seemed like the entire film was just trying to be a bunch of one-liners over and over again, even though that might have not been the case. The majority of the film is quite slow. It sells you on this whole like action-packed thing, but I didn't feel like it was truly action-packed until that the climax of the film, and even then the climax of the film just felt okay. Um, the entire time I was just thinking that this was like straight out of a video game called Just Cause. If you've ever played, it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, but like it's super basic story of like a made up island in the Caribbean. There's a dictator, and then you have drugs, and then you have someone who's rogue. So it just all felt very bland and like nothing original. So overall, it was just it was mid. Not a great start. Well, after watching the film, I thought I was just gonna dislike all of them, which luckily wasn't the case. But yeah, flat out 5 out of 10 for me.
I'm gonna go one below and do 4 out of 10. I wouldn't watch it again. I wouldn't.
Same.
It wouldn't be like my first pick. I don't even think I wanted to watch this movie. I just watched it. But it was pretty bad. I don't think out of every movie that's available, this should be the one you watch, unless you want to, watch number 4 and know what's happening. But
Yeah, but even then, I will say, well, we can discuss that later. I'll cut that out. But yeah, I too also wouldn't really have wanted to watch this film, but since I'm like on a train right now, like wanting to see everything that comes out, I'm like I want to know if these films in any way, shape, or form, if it matters. Um, if you need to see all of them, which spoiler alert, you don't really need to see all of them. But yeah, so in that case, we ended up watching all of them. But yeah, overall,
we did the work for you.
yeah, not a great start. It was just okay. Surprised it even made it out alive. I think it's just because the budget was just a safe number enough that they were able to like come out profitable out of it. So, all right, flick. Would I watch it again? Probably not. So yeah, if you've seen the Expendables Part 1, let us know what you think in the comments below.